Thousands of refugees immigrate to the United States every year from various unstable countries around the world. A refugee is someone that is forced to flee their country because of persecution, war, or violence. Persecution can be caused from many different aspects of life, including race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. In this presentation, we will be talking about refugees specifically from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, why they are forced to leave, their journey to the United States, and how they adapt to life in Vermont. The DRC is a small country located in Central Africa. In recent years, the renewed violence in the land has caused 2.2 million people to be displaced, as well as almost 70,000 people to flee to neighboring countries such as Rwanda and Uganda. Conflict within the country comes from the DRC's vast supply of various minerals, otherwise known as blood diamonds. The conflict minerals are gold, tin, tungsten, and tantalum, and are used in the production of electronics, jewelry, and many other products. There are three main rebel groups that are prevalent in the Congo. They are the Rwandan Hutu FDLR, the Rwanda and Uganda-backed M23, and the various local armed Mai Mai groups. In addition, the Congolese army has committed many human rights violations, making them a very dangerous group as well. Essentially, all of these groups are attempting to seize control of the natural resources in the country. The most recent rebellion, called M23, comes from rebels that believe that the March 23rd peace treaty was not honored by the government. The M23 group is being backed by surrounding countries such as Rwanda and Uganda with recruits and weaponry. The fighting between the rebel groups and the government has caused thousands of people to be displaced in the country. These rebel groups make hundreds of millions of dollars by trading these conflict minerals. Armed groups as well as government troops fight to control mines and smuggling routes by raping, abducting, killing, or displacing anyone in their way. These minerals are usually smuggled out of the Congo and shipped around the world for refinement. Once minerals are processed, it is very hard to trace their origin, making it very easy for companies to be using conflict minerals without even knowing it. Many electronic companies in the United States essentially fuel conflict in the Congo indirectly by using these minerals in their products. The money made off these minerals is used for personal profit, which prolongs the armed fighting within the country. The United States has taken some measures to stop conflict minerals from being used by companies. As part of the Dodd-Frank Reform Act, the U.S. government requires that American companies trace and audit their material supply chains to ensure their raw materials used are not tied to conflict in the Congo. The Securities and Exchange Commission have issued rules and regulations about how companies should report on the source of raw minerals in question. Even here in CVU, the Amnesty International Club has taken measures to end the issue in the DRC by having a no cell phone day, which raises awareness about the numerous conflict minerals used in many cell phones. While the US and other countries have taken some initiative to end this issue, there's still so much more everyone can do. It is important for people to understand how our actions fuel this conflict in the Congo and why there are so many refugees trying to flee.
A refugee's journey is a complicated and sometimes scary process. It starts by the refugee fleeing their country of origin to a relatively safe neighboring country or refugee camp. Then they must apply to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, or the UNHCR, for protection and apply for permanent resettlement in a resettlement country, where the UNHCR makes sure that you qualify as a refugee. After the application process, they must wait for an overseas processing entity, which is an agency contracted with the Department of State Bureau of Population and Migration, to prepare a case file. If that passes, then an interview with the Department of Homeland Security's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services is granted to demonstrate you qualify as a refugee. If you qualify, your application becomes a case and is assigned to a national agency such as Church World Service. These agencies provide the refugees with a medical examination and basic cultural orientation to the U.S. Finally, after this long process comes to an end, the refugee is able to leave their country of asylum and arrive at the airport, being met by a staff from the local agency, and welcome them to the United States or another resettlement country.
Yeah.
Malinga and Cleophas are a couple from the Congo who overcame the conflict and currently reside in America. They experienced the process of becoming refugees firsthand and share an incredible story of how they've come to live here. It was October 25th, 1996 when the war broke out. It was in the eastern part of the Congo. People started fleeing. Some went to Tanzania, some went to Zambia, some took their way to Burundi, and some took their way in Kenya. My wife at the time was in Burundi doing some kind of business. She went there, so when the war broke out, she found herself on that side. It was difficult for her to cross, again, back into the Congo. So myself, I wasn't prepared for that. We were trapped in that situation, and we had to flee. When I was in Burundi, there was a family I was staying with. That is where I was living every time I went to Burundi. So I found myself caught in that situation, and I went to that family and stayed there. The husband of that family knew Cleophas. That family was a family of Congolese, and they had been settled there for a long time. But they also had their own problems with security, so we decided to leave Burundi and go to Tanzania for security reasons. We snuck. We left at 5 in the morning while all the people were asleep. They said that they could not leave me behind since I was living with them. They said we should all go together, so we went up to Tanzania together. Because there was a lake, if you wanted to go to Tanzania, you had to take a boat. We took a boat and went to Tanzania. The boat ride was long, like 4 days. There were other people on the boat too. There was not enough food, so I didn't eat for 3 days. I was in Tanzania for 7 years. It was hard for me. Life was so bad in Tanzania, so by myself, it was hard for me. I couldn't imagine when I was going to see my family and my husband. After I arrived, I went to the church and I saw a priest and I said, "I'm from Congo and I'm looking for my husband." They said, "Yes, we can help you. We can give you someone who can help you." I had some hope in Christ that maybe I would see Cleophas, and I believed that because I prayed. I want to describe my story, but sometimes I find myself thinking about what happened, and it's hard. I do remember before we left Yervia, my mother was killed. Someone informed me. Somebody came and said, "You know your mother died. We saw the body on the way to the market." So when I went, it was not easy. She was killed, and it was a confusing month, the month of September. It started even in July and August. They were abducting people, kidnapping people. When the war actually started, we just got up in the morning and found everyone on the same road. They were going, making one line because it was only one road. On one side there were big mountains. On the other side was Lake Tanganyika. So we just had one way to go. If you didn't go that way, you had to go to Burundi. And you can't go to Burundi because Burundi was involved in the war. The border was closed, so we had to follow the long line for a distance of 250 kilometers until we took a boat at Lake Tanganyika. I do remember I took some things with me when I left. Just about 2 trousers, if not 3, and some shirts which I sold along the way. You know I needed that money. If you found someone who wanted to give you the value of $1 or $2, you just get it to buy dinner or whatever. Also, I took some books, important books. I had a small bag because at the time I was in college, so I just used that bag to carry some books and other things, and it went like that. They were special books for the language Esperanto because I was learning this international language. I even have the books still along with another copybook. I still have them here. After what felt like forever, I finally saw my husband again at a refugee camp across Lake Tanganyika. Once reunited with him, we decided to leave and go to the United States. The process was long and stressful. We didn't think it was going to work out. But finally, we got off that plane in Vermont to begin a new life.
Once refugees like Malinga and Cleophas make their journey from their home country to the United States, they disperse to different areas. Focusing on refugees settling in Vermont, we can discover how they adapt to Vermont's culture. In the past 20 years, Vermont's population of foreign-born residents has increased by more than 10,000 people according to the 2010 U.S. Census. This includes 5,477 being refugees from Bosnia, Vietnam,
Azerbaijan,
Sudan, Kosovo, Congo, Iraq, Somalia, Rwanda, Burundi, Togo, Burma, and Bhutan, which settled almost entirely in the Chittenden County area. Service providers for refugees total to 32. Including the most well-known are the Vermont organizations such as the Association of Africans Living in Vermont, AALV, and the Vermont Refugee Resettlement Program, VRRP. Of the 32 organizations, 71% have language training and employment assistance, 43% have healthcare for refugees, and 21% provide transportation according to a UVM research study. The male-to-female ratio is 56% male and 44% female of the refugees located in Vermont. The age representation of refugees in Vermont includes 3.1% being younger than 18, 19.8% of the population are 18 to 24 years, 28% makes up between the ages of 24 to 44, and 20.6% is 45 and older. Looking specifically at the largest refugee program in Vermont, the Vermont Refugee Resettlement Program was established in 1980. According to the website, VRRP has been bringing hope and opportunity to the lives of refugees and immigrants by defending human rights, promoting self-sufficiency, and forging community partnerships. This organization provides essential connections, whether it be helping them to find their home, interpreting and translating services, and other collaborative programs to help ease the transition to life in the United States. VRRP promotes and supports self-sufficiency in refugees' lives through these various programs. One service provider noted, VRRP relies on its volunteers to help run community events and aid refugees in adjusting to life in Vermont. This is done by helping write resumes, practicing interview skills, tutoring, ESL classes, and various other ways to help refugees adjust to life in Vermont. VRRP volunteers often teach clients how to use public transportation, and case managers help clients to get a bus pass. If a client gets a job, VRRP's employment services can provide up to $50 for transportation services. John, a refugee who came to Vermont after living in refugee camps in Burundi, shared his story in a Vermont documentary on refugees. He described what it was first like to move here. When I moved to Vermont, I spent 3 days in the house. When I was watching through the window, I would only see white people, and I was wondering if one day I would be able to see another black person. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to go to the marketplace, and I didn't know if I was ever going to find someone to talk to, because I didn't know the language. Afterwards, his experience became better as he adapted to the Vermont lifestyle. We are having a really good life because we are getting food. The government is helping us. The kids are going to school. My 3-year-old is starting this year. My message to the Vermont community would be first to thank them for welcoming us with a heart of serving and welcoming refugees. The second thing I would say is that the refugee concept is something that is a hard thing really to understand, because being a refugee means suffering and brokenhearted. There are a lot of things going on in a refugee's mind based on what that person went through. If somebody comes to you with a question or is asking for service, even if you don't speak the language, take the time just to listen to him. Even if you don't understand a single word, try just to imagine what he is trying to tell you, because that person really needs help.